Good evening and welcome to What's Your Story? I'm your host, James Ransom Reed Jr. We have a fascinating guest tonight to share with you some historical information I bet you did not know. My guest is Mrs. Lisa Timothy. She is the director of the East Lyme Public Library. But that's only half of her story. She has an association and a historical involvement with York Correctional Institute, the only female prison in the state of Connecticut. You're going to learn about York, how it began, what it is today, and her involvement with it. It is my pleasure to welcome to my show, Mrs. Timothy. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Well, would you please share with the viewers your background? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Meriden, Connecticut. I grew up in Wallingford, Connecticut.
Okay. Tell us about growing up in Wallingford.
It was growing up in Wallingford. Well, not a whole lot to say about it. I had a happy childhood. I used to like to go to the library a lot, ironically enough. I lived a few hundred yards from the children's library in the library branch, so I spent a lot of my childhood there. Getting an early start, I didn't know it then, but an early start on my career as a public library director.
And what high school did you graduate from?
I was very lucky. At age 14, I got a scholarship to Choate Rosemary Hall, and I spent 4 years there. I was quite literally and figuratively from the other side of the railroad tracks.
Really? You felt that way?
At times. At times I felt that, and at times I felt very lucky to have such a great education and opportunity. I studied very hard and
that was co-ed, wasn't it?
It had just turned co-ed a few years before I arrived there. I arrived there in 1980. It had gone co-ed in the mid-'70s.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah. And tell us about your parents.
My parents were wonderfully supportive. I have the best parents. My mom was a nurse. My dad worked at a chemical company. And they were supportive of everything I did. They just have wonderful things to say about them.
So who had the most influence on you, mom or dad? And why?
They're a pair. I don't think I can separate them. They've been married 63 years now. It's hard.
They're still with us?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they're
terrific.
Still with us, still married to each other.
You don't have to name them, but just give a shout out to my parents.
My parents, wonderfully supportive. And it was my mom's idea to, I think, bring me over and sit me down in the admissions office at Choate and just take a wild chance on getting me admitted there. And it did work out. My dad was super supportive, and I loved studying. I loved the education that I got there and went on from there.
Now, Choate is what, a private, very upper class private school?
Yes.
Is that my understanding of it?
Yeah, it's sort of like the Ivy League of the high schools.
The Ivy League of the high schools
is one way of putting it.
And you walked in there as what, a freshman or?
Yep, I was 14.
And what idea did you have about it? I mean, did you know that you were going into that kind of environment? Or?
Yeah, I knew I was going into a different socioeconomic class kind of place, but I was comfortable fairly quickly. I really liked it because it was okay to be smart there. I had a little bit of a problem
that's a great phrase.
In middle school being a little too nerdy, and you know how middle school is.
That's a great comment. It was okay to be smart.
It was okay to be able to study and to take your classes seriously and whatnot. And again, I got a wonderful education. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am today without that.
Any of the teachers stand out in your mind all these years later?
No, I think as a whole they were all pretty good.
What kinds of classes did you have at Choate?
History, English, science, social science.
So the basics.
Basic high school.
The basic stuff that you would get.
Yeah, college trajectory, 4 years of Spanish.
Oh, a college trajectory.
Yeah,
okay.
So.
Lisa, tell us about your family. Now, I know you have one.
Yes.
All right, talk.
I'm married to a wonderful man named Eric, and I won't say any more than that. I'm protective of my family's privacy online and whatnot. We've been married for almost 18 years, and we have 14-year-old twin sons.
And you want to tell us how you and Eric met?
Well, we met online. But the funny thing is he happened to be in my high school class. And after our first date, I thought,
So he was at Choate also?
Yeah, in the same class as me.
Same class as you?
We didn't know each other.
And that's
at
something.
All. Yeah, so went on this first date, and I thought, I just knew this online thing wasn't going to work out. This guy's stalking me. He's looking up where I went to high school. He's telling me all these things. But turns out he wasn't. He was legit. And we, started dating quickly after that, and we're married within a year or two.
So you discovered after online dating that he was your classmate.
Yeah, he was telling me the truth.
He was telling you the truth, not giving you a line.
Yeah, so he can't tell me too many stories about his high school days because I have ways of independently verifying.
Ways of verifying it, yeah, because I was
happened.
there. I was there. What was graduation? I was just curious. What was the graduation like from Choate? What was it like?
It was good, but it was a little scary because I liked being at the high school so much. I was afraid of what was coming next, college and handling that and whatnot.
Yes.
But, it turned out fine. What I really remember is it poured for days ahead of time, and I had this white dress on, and it was just, muddy on the bottom. But I thought, if there's a good reason to get, a white dress muddy, high school graduation's one of them. So it was okay.
You were fine.
Yeah, I was fine.
Yeah, and mom and dad out there cheering you on.
Yep, very supportive.
Absolutely. Okay. When we first met and we talked, you were very candid about some physical issues you've dealt with and overcome. And the reason we talk about that sort of stuff is because we have thousands of people who will watch this show who will see what happened and how people can overcome things. So that my show is basically described as an inspirational show.
Okay.
Because it's called, obviously, What's Your Story? Boop, right there. And what I've learned in life is that people have fascinating stories. And often when you contact people and talk to them, they say, I don't know. I have nothing exciting about me. And then you discover that they built a bridge or something, or that they could scuba dive for 35 years and seen a world that some of us will never see. It's that sort of thing.
Okay.
So what we appreciate, particularly I do, is having people come on, talk about the physical stuff that they've dealt with, from start to finish and how it made them stronger. So would you please share that with us?
Yeah. During the COVID lockdown, I, out of the blue, got diagnosed with cancer. I had gone to the dentist, and they had found a tumor under my tooth. And I didn't know you could go to the dentist and come home with cancer. What happened here?
But that's important because people don't associate that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
I never saw this coming. I remember them saying they were doing a biopsy, but, you don't get cancer in your mouth or your
right,
teeth, right?
Exactly.
That's not what happens.
Who thinks of that?
Right, yeah. So, and actually, it was, a little worrisome the first few hours. I thought, what is going on here? But in the end, there's so much they can do these days. It's not the death sentence that it used to be when we were much younger, a few decades ago, where there was, not a lot they could do. I had 3 rounds of chemo. It was gone, and I finished 3 rounds of chemo after that, and my prognosis is good. So I consider myself an incredibly lucky person, And
it was found at the dentist's office?
Yeah, I had a tooth that split. They took the tooth out, and underneath, it wasn't that the tooth had split. It was that the tumor had grown under the tooth.
Wow.
So never saw it coming.
So treatment is chemo?
Yep.
Hair loss and all that?
Yep.
Sickness and from the...
Not too much, no. I mean, in all honesty, it was much harder to be pregnant with twins than it was to have chemo for this, And they gave me much better drugs because they could with the chemotherapy, to calm everything down.
It was much harder to have twins.
It was much harder to be pregnant with twins because you don't take any medication, and I was, morning sickness, morning, noon, and night. So you learn as you get older. You go through something like that. Oh my God, I have cancer. It's the middle of a global pandemic, and really. It's survivable. It's not the hardest thing,
I am going to use that.
Okay.
If I talk to people, I'm going to say I talked to a woman named Lisa Timothy, and she told me dealing with the form of cancer she had, it was easier than giving birth to twins.
The twins, yeah.
Ouch!
It was, that's when I needed some support. Oh my gosh! You had these 2 little babies, and what that does to you at any point in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but and in the end, you learn that it's life comes at you and you learn things. And at this point in my life, I know one of the questions you had for me is I described myself as mellow. And I
Yes,
think
that's the next one's coming up. Yeah,
at this point, it takes a lot to get on my radar screen as an emergency,
of course.
If
What's that other thing? Because something is an emergency to you doesn't mean
right,
it's an
right. I
emergency,
thought,
something like
is everyone going to be alive at the end of this situation? Me in particular?
Yes, yes,
Then
yes.
it's just a situation, really. So
Yeah,
I think I've learned to take life as it comes a little bit better from that whole experience.
that's what you learned from that, huh?
Yeah, I think so. And, and that being stuck at home, I mean, we were all stuck home during the pandemic.
Sure,
But then
yes.
I was really stuck at home because I really, I didn't have an immune system. I couldn't leave the house really except to go to the chemo center. But, those days end and things come back to life. And I think we all learned that from the pandemic to some extent. We all had different experiences, but, it's hard to remember that was all just rolled into one quick experience a few years ago.
Yeah. Lisa, would you please tell us what you said, the chemo center? So you leave home, you go to a specific place, and they put you in a chamber or something, or
No, just a regular room.
it's a regular room?
Yeah, I had an IV for a few hours and I'd go home.
The chemo is IV.
Yeah, IV, just strict IV.
And how long does that take? A couple hours?
6 hours the first time, 3 hours after that.
Oh, 6 and
Yeah, the first one they
three.
have to be really careful because they're giving you some pretty potent drugs and they want to see what happens,
Sure,
So,
sure.
but after that, they know what they're doing and they know how your body will react, and
Yeah.
it's much easier.
And
So-
after the third session,
Yep.
that's when you were told it was.
Yeah, my test came back negative, but they wanted to do all 6 rounds. The type of cancer I had, the treatment was 6 rounds, and you don't want to fool with it, right?
Yeah.
So
So you did the full
yeah,
6.
did the full 6. Yeah,
And after 3, you were
and
good.
yep, I've been good since.
Wow.
So
Well, God bless. I'm so
thank you.
very, 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 very happy to hear that. And obviously, because you're here today,
Yep.
healed and
Thank you.
looking wonderful. And
well, thank you.
you came through it.
Yep.
Did your faith play any kind of role in that at all, or?
I'm not a terribly religious person, but I think during that year, myself and probably everyone else, we had to think a lot more about death because it was around us a lot more, and and so I realized that I was very happy with my life. I just needed. I still had kids at home, so I thought I've got to get a few more years in here. Anything after that's icing on the cake. But and I started watching YouTube videos, which is not always the best way to get information. I'm a librarian after all, but it's what I had access to then. And looking at scientists and doctors who have studied death and learning that they can't explain everything. That I consider myself a very scientific, rational person.
Sure.
But science can't explain everything.
It doesn't.
And so I had a little bit more of an open mind about things after that.
Yeah.
So-
Well, so it
yeah.
it affected you in many different ways.
Yeah. How could it not?
Absolutely.
But it's been it's been fine. And it really wasn't as devastating as I thought it would be.
Yes. As you alluded to earlier, you describe yourself as a mellow, spiritual feminist.
Yes.
What is that?
Did I say that? I didn't say that, did I? I didn't say
Yes,
that,
you
didn't I?
did.
Yeah, I mean, I've always feminist in that I always felt that women could do. I came of age in the early 1970s, so this was something people were talking about, and was raised to think that people are people and shouldn't be judged on characteristics that they're born with. That you treat people for who they are, and that's gender, race, socioeconomic class, whatever. So by feminist, I think I mean that. And I was proud to be feminist. My mom set a great example and sent herself to college while I was little. And that was a step. She did a 2-year nursing program. It's just incredibly brave of her. She did not have the background. She didn't graduate from high school. She just took her GED and got a nursing degree. It's just, when I think back on that, I'm like, my gosh, it's just incredible. So she set a good example that, as a woman, you can get educated and you should get educated and you can do a career and you can have a family. And
You mean you
whatnot.
can bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan?
Exactly. Sky's the limit. So, like I said, great example. And my dad was so supportive too. So it was good. So feminist in that way. And mellow, like I just said, it takes a lot to be an emergency on my radar screen these days. So
Yeah. Well, raising twins, I imagine there were some moments where,
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to my husband on that one because those kids would not be alive if it was just me. You know? They're alive because they have a wonderful father who
yeah, they made it
who's
because
really,
of dad.
yeah, dad was good.
Dad.
And when dad couldn't do any more, I would step in and I would do my part. And
Yes,
we
yeah.
hand them off back and forth, and they're good kids. So
So,
it ended well. But again, the twins thing was much harder than the cancer.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and the twins are wonderful. It's not a bad thing. I
So
do
do
it all
you
again.
talk to people other than these thousands you're talking to
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
about your experiences in order to help other women? I mean, you go to,
Yeah, I was kind of curious when you contacted me. I'm a little worried that if you look for the history of York Prison, I'm what comes up because I'm not a historian and I don't know
sure.
a lot of it. But I think it's important for people to talk about things that are out there, whether it's cancer, having twins, or prison.
Race.
What does prison, race? Yep, and all the things. So I think that's all I want to say about that.
So let me throw you a softball. You can really knock this one out of the park.
I hope.
I am a lover of books. Books are my friends, and you can revisit them as many times as you like.
Yep.
And if you're lazy, that would be me, you could read historical stuff where people spent years researching to put something together, and you could just turn a page.
Yep. Exactly.
So I think one of the greatest assets in this nation, and it's free, is your library card. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, it's the best deal you can find. For what little you pay in taxes, you get all kinds of things. Public libraries' biggest problems is marketing. We have so many things, and no matter how much we jump up and down and say, did you know we have this? Did you know we can do this? Do you know we can get you a book from anywhere in the country at your public library for free?
Is that right?
Yeah, you can interlibrary loan stuff. At my library, you get about one book a week from out of state for a patron somewhere who's looking for something. So people don't realize how valuable it is. And they think with ebooks and whatnot, now that we don't need them anymore, we need them more than ever, in a lot of ways.
So that brings us really close to your current profession as the director of the East Lyme Public Library. How did you become the director? How did that happen?
I started as the assistant director back in 2003, 2004.
Yes.
So I was assistant director for about 9 years, and then the director retired, and I stepped into the director position.
And what does a director do? I mean, just
Well, we don't read books all day. I read very few books. I read a lot of book reviews. I don't read a lot of books.
yes.
But I'm responsible for the budget, hiring, human resources, some book ordering. Just the buck stops here. Whatever needs to happen with the library.
So what's in is the library financed by the town or?
It's financed by the town, and we have a few private streams of money, small amounts of endowment here or there. Not a whole lot, but enough to help with special projects if we want to do that.
So tell me
like
what's
that.
available at the East Lyme Public Library.
Any public library.
Okay.
There are ebooks, although there's a long waiting list for those because of the way we have to purchase them. That's a little strange.
Okay. All right.
There are books.
Well, for people who are dinosaurs like myself, they may not know what an ebook is. Tell them what an ebook is.
Ebook is something you download onto your Kindle, your phone, your device of whatever sort.
So I come to the library.
Yep.
And you give me what to download the ebook?
We show you how to use your library card, which has to be up to date.
Okay.
To enter in some barcode numbers, and each public library has a different way in.
Yes.
They're verified in a different way.
Okay.
To get you into the system where the ebooks are, and then you can either check a book out, or if the book is not available, you can put it on hold.
And you do that with your library card?
Yep.
All right. So you've got obviously books. You have music. What?
Music. Most public libraries have some form of streaming video.
Okay.
It's usually through a program called Hoopla, which has TV shows, movies, comic books, music. Not all the libraries have Hoopla, but some of them do.
Oh, tell me, good.
There's probably more there too. There's a lot of online databases like learning a foreign language. You can log in and like Duolingo without the commercials and probably more choice or whatnot.
So
not to knock Duolingo, that's very nice, but
yeah.
But there are databases where you can learn foreign languages or take online classes. to do things like learn how to draw or learn how to use Excel software and whatnot.
I never knew that all that was there.
Yep.
I just had no idea.
Yep, databases that the state provides to look things up, whether it's historic newspapers or they have their own ebook system. Connecticut's trying to grow. That's actually
Okay.
quite good. So
All right, so microfiche, is that gone?
not entirely, almost. It's not gone because me, being the dinosaur in the library, has said, I want the microfiche from the Civil War, the New York Times, the Civil War. We're keeping that, and we keep the local paper, the New York Times, and the Congressional Digest on microfilm in my library, just because I know all this is available online, but it can be hacked online and it can be misinformation and whatnot, and you can't hack the microfilm in the public library down the street. I may be a little paranoid for thinking in that way, but
No,
it's
it sounds good to me.
they're for all the public libraries that have microfilm,
Yes.
which aren't very many of these. We've gotten rid of most of them, but some of them we do keep just because
Okay.
it's a record that can't be altered right now.
And then a thing like COVID came,
Yeah.
and the whole country changed and has changed forever. How did that impact your library?
Well, we closed down. We thought it would be a week or two. It ended up being 3 months. And I went from ordering books to ordering plexiglass wherever I could find it because we had to set the library up in a way that would be safe for people to come back into with the distancing and, the plexiglass and cleaning fluids. I had to spend a lot of time researching what would kill the COVID virus, what kind of, if the cleaning fluids we had would do that, or if we had to order something,
yes.
stuff I would never dreamed of doing, all of a sudden my job changed dramatically and everything just slowed down a little bit, but we all public libraries did a great job. We made the switch to curbside service where we would bring books outside and people would pick them up. In the parking lot, we'd leave them on a bench so that it was all safe, and, and we did quite a business, actually. People had a lot of time on their hands. They wanted their books. They'd fill out a form online and we'd bring them out.
Curbside service at the library.
For months.
Wow.
We did that. So kept going.
Tell me when you knew this was not the usual. Like you said, you thought it'd be a couple of weeks and boom.
Yeah.
When did it hit you that, this is going to be problematic here for a while?
Yeah. When we were, as librarians, we were all talking behind the scenes with the different library outlets that we have.
Yes.
And when it came up with the list of things we were going to have to do before we could open again, you're going to have to install in plexiglass. You're going to have to make sure everyone is at least 6, if not 10 feet apart. You're going to have to take all the toys from the children's room and put them away. Can't have kids, putting stuff in their mouth. And,
Oh, yes.
so the long list of things that were going to have to happen before we could safely open, and then we would have to open and see how it went. So that took about a week or two in to just say, okay, this is going to be a bit of a process and we're going to do it, but we're going to have to do everything differently. So, and every library is shaped differently. Every public library has their own different issues. Some libraries could make that transition quickly. Some of them just, no, it's going to take a little bit longer. So we had to move
the
furniture.
effects of COVID still affect your operation today, or are you back pretty much to normal?
We were back to normal about a year ago, and we're starting to see a huge surge in children. It's wonderful, and it's not just my library; it's other public libraries too. Parents are spending a lot more time bringing their kids to the library. Grandparents are bringing their.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, there's a silver lining,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that.
So that's terrific, and I could get books from other places sent to.
Absolutely.
No, that's what I wanted to ask. I have a New Britain library card. Is it good in East Lyme?
The first time you come in, you have to register with us. But
Okay.
your public library card in Connecticut should be good in any other public library in Connecticut. We do have reciprocal services for people.
Wow.
First time you come in, again, you need to register so we know who you are and how your barcode fits into our system. But yeah, there's you can take out a book. You can't use the online services. The online services that you use are restricted to your library, your hometown library.
Your residence,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Right.
All right.
So
Well, listen, hold that thought.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, now you know who she is, right? And what she does and how she's done it. Next part of our show, she's going to talk about her involvement with York Correctional Facility. It has been my pleasure to spend this first half hour with Lisa Timothy, the director of the East Lyme Public Library. You don't want to go anywhere. You want to learn about the history of York Correctional Facility. Until next time, I'm your host, James Ransom Reed Jr. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Good night.
Nick Augustino right here at the East Side Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the East Side Restaurant. East Side Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, tiki-taka, hoi, hoi, hoi!
Follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.